This is Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting. And today I'm really honored to interview Marc and Keith Larochelle of Productive Computing at productivecomputing.com. These guys have been icons in the FileMaker business since 1996, I think, approximately. Mm-hmm. Maybe not icons all that time, but you've been doing it that long, and you've been FileMaker Platinum, I understand, since 2001. So, guys, how are you today? What's going on?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And Keith, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for having us, Don.
You bet. I don't do a lot of multiple person interviews, but I've done a couple, and it's interesting when we do them. So they kind of get going in their own little ways. You guys tell me about the history of productive computing. Keith?
Sure, Keith, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take it?
You tell the story the best, Mark.
Okay, great. Well, let's see. I was working for the National Association of Music Merchants as an intern in 1991. And from there, they handed me a giant catalog. It's called the Who's Who directory, and it was a directory of all our members, literally thousands of members. Mm-hmm. And they were using FileMaker Pro 2, I believe, at that point. And they said, we need you to make this directory, and here's the program that you're going to use. And I said, okay. Mm-hmm. And I loaded FileMaker up, and I started looking at how I could lay the design out to make this giant directory. And from there, it was like a match made in heaven. I just fell in love with the product, fell in love with what I was doing, and just that's how I started. So I worked there for 5 years, and they promoted me from just an intern, and they hired me into membership, and then I became the IT person by the end of it. And throughout those 5 years, because of my aptitude in computers and my knowledge of FileMaker, I ended up getting clients on the side. And I teach computers at night. And then there was as the story goes, there was this, I was closing up the computer training center. It was probably around 8:30. We had just done our class, locked the door. And as I was packing up, getting ready to go, this little old couple comes and they knock on the door. And I opened the door and I said, how can I help you folks? And they said, well, we just wanted to take computer lessons. I said, well, we're closed, but I'd be more than happy to come to your house and teach you whatever you'd like to know. And I did. And it turned out that those people, that little old couple, the lady was Patti Page, the famous singer from the 50s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And of course, I was too young to even know who Patti Page was. So when they said it was Patti and her last name was Page, it didn't even register. Uh-huh. And so then I went to their house, and they had Macintosh computers, and they actually already had FileMaker. And it turned out that he wanted me to help him construct a database to run his business, which was a maple syrup business in New Hampshire. And when he found out that I was born and raised in New Hampshire, well, that was the end. I mean, we were like a match made in heaven with him and me. And I went to their house 3 days a week for several years. And eventually I did learn that she was famous. And then I could see all the different things that she did as a famous person, and all the people she knew in their database of all the famous people. So that's how it all started. And from there, he said, okay, well, my sister owns a business. I need you to go there and help him. And my son is a doctor. I need you to go help him. And that's what started the business for us here at Productive Computing. Fast forward, so doing that for several years, Keith, having the same degree as me, music business, doing the same internship for the same organization in Carlsbad, the National Association of Music Merchants, he too, literally 4 years later, did the exact same thing. Came to NAM, and then we started, from that point forward, we started the company in a small apartment in Carlsbad.
What brought you out to California from New Hampshire?
So the big draw was this internship in the music business. And there was one opportunity in Carlsbad for the National Association of Music Merchants, and that internship propelled me out here for, literally 3,500 miles away. It dropped everything, dropped the girlfriend. I was in a band 4 days a week. And I came out here completely alone, not a person, no car. In fact, I had no car for 6 months, rode my bike all around. And that really is the beginning of, it's truly like being a modern day pioneer, making that move and doing what I did.
And Keith?
So Mark left out sort of the first part of the story where, growing up in New Hampshire, Mark and I have always been very close. We've always played games together. We both started in music, in the bands. Neither one of us really played sports, so we were sort of the band geeks. But we were always very good at music. for that whole first part of our lives, I essentially followed in my big brother's footsteps, and I always liken it to standing on the shoulders of giants. And in my opinion, Mark is he's my I don't want to say he's my hero. That sounds a little too sappy, but I mean, I've always taken what he's done and figured out ways how to either improve it or accelerate it, and that's essentially how. In my role within the company, Mark is the dreamer. He cuts the path, and then I figure out a way how to pave it.
Nice.
That's essentially how our relationship has always been, and I'm very grateful to.
Well, it's nice when you have different skill sets or different actual abilities in business, because it's more complementary that way. You get further, as opposed
Absolutely.
to both being the dreamers or both being the people that are paving the way or the programmers. Do you both program still quite a bit? I mean, did you during the formative years?
Early on, my skill was mostly web programming and IT, PC IT consulting. That was the very early part of our lives. Mark had all of the FileMaker programming as well as the Macintosh consulting. But then that evolved over the years to really just focusing on FileMaker. And so I've never really been a FileMaker expert. I've been certified in years past, but my role in the company is much more on the operations and business side. So Mark is the one that's responsible to stay up on the technology and make sure the guys are being trained and certified.
Okay. So you're the one that does more of the business, learning more about business and making the decisions that need to be done. And I think you mentioned go ahead. Yeah.
I would say the decisions are really done between both Mark and I. Usually we come up with a unanimous decision. I definitely look at it from the perspective of what's in the best interest of the company. Mark certainly looks at it from what's in the best interest of the customer. And between those two perspectives, we usually come up with a really good decision that's well balanced. So the decision-making process is really between the two of us, but from the legwork to actually get those decisions executed on, I from a business perspective, all of the business generic stuff is handled by me, and more of the technical decision or execution is handled and oversaw. Mark oversees those things.
You mentioned when we were talking earlier that you are in a business group that offers some business advice and business health, how to navigate through, all the different things, because you guys have come a long way and you're getting up to platinum in a short period of time like you did and doing so well in the market. That indicates that you've got some pretty good business savvy. Could you fill us in a little bit on that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, most of our business savvy really is rooted in common sense. What would you want? How would you want to be treated? If you always have to put yourself in the customer's position, how would you want to be treated? So much of our success is really due to that. But in the last couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, we've been looking at ways how we can accelerate our business growth. And so then we started seeking outside advice, and we joined a local group. Actually, it's a group that was started in Utah, but it also has a chapter here in San Diego called Corporate Alliance.
Okay.
And basically that's where like-minded and like-sized businesses can get together and be a sort of an informal board of advisors for you. You can bring business problems or marketing issues or sales issues or hiring questions and throw that around the table and discuss it in a very protected environment. And we found that very, very beneficial.
Yeah, I've taken some business coaching in years past that I find has a couple of different good things to it. One is you learn a lot of different things in different areas, like time management or team building or overall focus on your business, working on your business as opposed to in your business, those types of things. And when you got someone who can explain those things to you and keep your nose to the grindstone, as it were, it seems to help out in keeping moving your business forward to meet your goals.
It's imperative, absolutely imperative. Yeah,
and that's one thing I always like to share when I can with my people that are visiting the site and stuff, is that it's a good thing for you to always pay attention to the business side of the proposition. So
absolutely, and I think that really sets the difference between being a solopreneur, which is perfectly fine, but that's much more a technical role, versus once you start adding employees, you have to really add a whole new set of skills in order to grow and own that business. I mean, being a technician in the business is absolutely different than being the owner of a business.
Yes, it is. That's very astute. Yeah. Well, tell me some other things. I guess is what was your most challenging technical project for you guys as a company or individual?
Besides the upgrade to FileMaker 7?
Yeah, that was a big one, I know.
That's right. That's a great question. I think that there's no shortage of technical challenges with every new project or with most new projects. I think some of the biggest challenges we face is when you're working with an enterprise client, because of their restrictions, mandates, and quite frankly, red tape, it becomes really difficult as a developer to work within that environment, especially when you're used to really rapid development and an easy, we're used to just getting in there, adding a field, and making people happy. Mm-hmm. So now you take that same paradigm and now you work with an enterprise customer who it takes 6 months just to get access to the very basic connections. Mm-hmm. Now you have to kind of relearn how to do that. You're working on development servers and production servers and QA servers, and you're migrating data over weeks and months. So it really, again, that's where a lot of times if you start as a FileMaker developer and your love is there, and then you're faced with these kinds of political red tape challenges, it becomes sort of the dirty part of the business. Mm-hmm. So you either have to embrace that sort of thing and work with your customers to graduate to that level, or you can just say, hey, I'm not interested in that type of customer. I just want to keep it simple and work for that 5-user office and go there and put smiles on their face in 10 minutes versus, the 10 weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot better and a lot more quick feedback when you're dealing with a small group.
Right.
Yeah. So what you guys focus your efforts on mostly larger corporations, mid-size? I mean, which way do you go?
Well, believe it or not, we don't have many individuals. In the early days, we had a lot of individuals who wanted a database, and they were either like a real estate person or somebody that wanted something simple. Nowadays, we tend to work with companies 5 to 10 or more, and then we work with large companies. Work groups within large companies are a big part of our client base. Right now, you might want to ask the breakdown of our revenue. 70% or so of our revenue comes from customers who we do custom work for.
Okay.
And then about 20 to 25% of our revenue comes from the products we make. That would be the plugins or the FileMaker solutions. Mm-hmm. And then maybe 10% comes from the hosting that we do. Okay. And of course these numbers change and they move, but that's generally what it is today.
Well, that's a good lead in for your plugins. Tell me about your plugins. You've got a real popular one and more than one, but I mean, probably your biggest one's the QuickBooks, I would think, isn't it? The integration with QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I think that's the plugin that most people identify us with. Mm-hmm. And it is, if not the biggest seller, right up there. And I'm not sure exactly why we took that plugin on, but when we made that plugin, there was already a competing plugin from Happy Software. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
But then there was an opportunity to buy that plugin and their customers with it. So we did. We actually bought the code, and then we integrated their code with our plugin so that people who are already on that could keep going in a sense, or do minor programming. And so we made that bold move, and now we really had 99% of the market. And then we're about to release something soon. I don't know if we can talk about it on this, but the last remaining competing product was the 123 Sync, which was Solution Maker's product up there in Seattle. And now we have a strategic partnership with them we're working side by side. So we'll hopefully own the entire market for QuickBooks integration with FileMaker. And we continue to evolve and work on that.
Will you have the integration with the online QuickBooks, or will it be still with just the program?
So currently we do have integration with the online version of QuickBooks today on Windows.
Oh, okay.
And we're looking to do more with either other platforms. We're also looking to expand to see how can we make it as easy as possible for people to use. Because QuickBooks, to begin with, is already a difficult thing.
Oh, yes.
because it requires the developer not only to work in Windows for the most part, it also requires them to know a good deal about accounting. Yeah. And for most developers, those two things are already two steps a strike against what they really want to do. At least that's my my interpretation of it. So whatever we can do to make that easier is always good. But yeah, that is what we're most known for. We have other great plugins like our Outlook and Exchange Manipulator. Those are really popular. Yeah. And again, a lot of enterprise customers rely on those type of products. And then we continue our stable of PDF Manipulator is another popular product. We can fill in forms and extract from PDF forms. Okay. And then we're about to release a brand new version of our iCal manipulator, which we haven't been able to work on because Apple changed the code to 64-bit only. And of course, FileMaker hasn't been 64-bit until recently. Yeah. Yeah, so there was really nothing we could do to provide our customers with a real integration with iCal on the Mac. So that's going to change very soon. And then, of course, we have other plugins that we're looking at building, a few that we've taken off the shelf because they're no longer needed, and things like that. Okay. Yeah. So you got some good plans for the future. Right. Speaking of the future, let's talk about FileMaker themselves. You were all at DevCon 2015. You went to the non-disclosed event, and listened to some of their plans and stuff. But some of that stuff is out there. Without going into anything that's non-disclosed, what do you think about the future or the path that FileMaker's taking at this point in time? Yeah. Well, I think it's good. From my understanding, is that some of the people that are directly responsible for how Server works and how Pro works have come from an experience that is a little bit more developer-centric and a little bit more enterprise-centric. So that influence and that culture, I think, is directly affecting the future of that product, which I think in general is good. They seem to be sensitive to some of the needs that developers have had for a long time and that continue to have, such as what is the best way to migrate from one version of a solution to another, back to what I was talking about at the enterprise, where you have the test server. What's the best way to do that? So I think they've heard those messages loud and clear and thinking about ways to make that easier in the future. I think that mobile is a big thing. So FM Go is exciting for us. We have a really neat solution, too, actually, using mobile. If I could take 30 seconds and talk about it, I can share that. Yeah. So a boat captain here in San Diego, we're right here, not far from the beach. So this boat captain came and said, I need a solution for my boat captains to enter. Basically, he goes out and salvages boats and refuels the boats or tows them back in. It's sort of, think of it like AAA for the sea. Okay. Okay. So one of the big things that he needed was there's no internet in the middle of the ocean. So he needed a way to synchronize that. So we built him a solution that they're using now, and it's used here and on the East Coast of this vessel assist program using Go and FileMaker, and it pushes to QuickBooks and all the rest of it. Okay. So there's a great example of where FileMaker and Go and all these things are becoming more practical. I mean, 4 years ago, we wouldn't be able to do something like that. Well, that's true. And it's really nice having the ability to operate on the like a smart device or iPhone, iPad, and then sync back to the regular database. Like you said, when you're out on the ocean, if you're dependent on a cloud-based solution, you don't have one. There's nothing there because they don't store their stuff on the device most of the time. Everything's interactive, and they count on the fact that you have internet. So FileMaker Go has a solution. It's a better solution for people who need to be able to operate outside of that. And I see a lot of that, people that go into homes where they don't have good internet connection, so they can't sit there and update their information. Or around where I live in Albuquerque, there's a lot, and you guys too, I think you have some mountains nearby. You get into the mountains around here, all the internet's gone. Sure. If you look at our map of Verizon or T-Mobile or any of those things, you'll see all the rest of the country pretty much is all covered in, but New Mexico and Arizona, there's big areas, there's nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so when we get a little further away from here at all, we have to take care of or think about those issues when we're developing. So, Keith, what do you think about that direction that everybody's going? Well, I think Mark hit the nail on the head with all of the technology that he described.
I would say from a business perspective, I'm really pleased with the sales push that FileMaker is making to bring the FBA members in and help them to sell or resell FileMaker licensing, because the bigger the licensing base, certainly that helps all of us. And so whatever we can do to partner with them and make some headway there, I am definitely all for.
Okay. What do you guys do in your spare time? Do you have some? I see what you have back there and behind your head there on the wall.
Right.
Tell me
So,
about
I mentioned early on in the interview that in the first half of our lives, I was basically following in Mark's footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
But I have always had a passion for sports cars. Almost every one of the cars I've ever owned has been sporty in nature. And then in the last 5 or so years, I started to up the ante. I bought a little Lotus as sort of a fun little car to go around. And then a colleague of mine, who happens to be in one of the other business groups that we're in, she introduced me to the sport of autocross, which is where you take whatever car you're driving. Some cars are better than others. And you put them in a track. It's usually like a huge parking lot. For example, down here in San Diego, we have Qualcomm Stadium that they rent out. It's with the Porsche club that we race with, and they set up a pretty big track, and you go and you compete in a timed environment to see who can get through the course the fastest.
Okay.
And it's definitely it's definitely an adrenaline junkie sport. And that's really just the entry level to what you can do with motorsports. And so I started doing that for about a year and a half. And I said, Mark, hey, you have got to try this. It's just beyond fun. Mm-hmm. And so I sucked him in, and we've been doing it now I've been doing it for about 3 years, and Mark's been doing it for about a year and a half, something like that. And that's what we do for fun.
I thought I had my phones turned off. I apologize.
No worries.
Not a cell phone. That's a regular phone. But at any rate, it's turned off now. Well, that's what you guys do for fun. Are you still in the music industry or in any way, shape, or form? Bands or anything like that? Or
Keith, I'll let you start that one.
So Mark and I both have music degrees, and that's where we started our professional career. Although we never really did music professionally per se, but when I was in college, I joined the Army National Guard, and I joined a band unit. So I played for 2.5 years or so in the Army, and this was as a reservist while I was going through school and starting my professional career. And when I transferred out here to California, I transferred from the Army into an Air Force unit because, of course, they don't have band units in every part of the country. As a matter of fact, it's a very specialized career field within the military. So I transferred to an Air Force unit. And I am actually, next month is my last month. I'm retiring after 23 years being a reserve band musician as a trumpet player. So that's what I've been doing as a semi-professional musician on the side.
That's neat. And how about you, Mark?
So in high school, I was in a progressive rock band, an original progressive rock band. We had original music, and we had a small independent record label, and we went to Europe and we recorded there, and we played shows around Northeast and things like that. And when I moved out here, I joined a Polynesian rock band as a keyboard player and saxophonist. Mm-hmm. And I still occasionally play with that band, maybe once every 3 months or so. And it's, a combination of calypso music, reggae, that type of thing. So it's pretty wild. Okay,
well, want to switch subject one more time. Did you guys, I know you were running a booth at DEF CON. Did you get a chance to go to any of the sessions or anything like that? I mean, I didn't. I was upstairs the whole time interviewing one person after another. But I heard there were a lot of good sessions, and I talked to a lot of the presenters for that matter. Did you guys get to any of them?
I don't believe I got to any sessions. It's probably my only regret. I did a vendor session, so part of me was preparing for that. And then we were running the booth. And then we have a lot of other meetings commingled throughout DEF CON, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
The role that Mark and I play during a DEF CON is usually multifaceted. Everything from presenting on one of our products to helping the staff with the booth. Mm-hmm. But certainly we have a lot of private sessions with customers or potential customers that they can get some face-to-face time. And it's really a good way for us to connect with our not only existing customers, but to build some new relationships as well. You know, one of the interesting things that we did this year, and it was really Mark's brainchild, I think. And Mark, you might want to tell them what we did different this year compared to every other year, which was for us a tremendous success, I think.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, this year we, so Don, what normally would happen is we would go and we would set up all our demos of all our products. And we would set up computers and laptops and monitors, and we'd have signature pads and scanning devices. And it would take us about 30 to 40 hours to prepare for DevCon, all our demonstration products. Everything had to be connected. You had to have sample data. You had to have QuickBooks installed, everything.
Oh, yeah.
You can imagine what that's like. So this year, I think we just said, look, no demos. We're not going to do a single demo because all that stuff is so much better represented through videos. People like to take demos at their own pace. They want to download it, click their own button, look under the hood, see how it's constructed. There's no time to do that at DevCon, and hard to hear to begin with. So this time, Don, what we did is we created a simple FM Go application. We called it Sales Pal, and it was a way to collect information. So what we did is we just grabbed the first and last name, the company name. We scanned the badge. We grabbed the barcode from the attendee. We took a picture of their badge in case we didn't have time to type it all out. We had checkboxes on what they were interested in. We had a button that said, okay, we'll now add you to the email list. We had another button that said, we're going to go ahead and send you a follow-up. And, you know, within 30 seconds, we were collecting information, all 6 of us, again, hosted on the cloud. And, you know, we collected a lot more leads, like 4 times more than we would normally, just kind of talking to people, grabbing a possible business card and showing some people some demos. Much more effective from a business, and people, I think, enjoyed it more, Don, because you could look at them straight in the face. You weren't huddled over a computer trying to listen and hear the complicated demos to begin with. It was just
difficult. It's difficult when you're on the floor. When you walk up to the booth, one person's doing a demonstration, you got to wait for a while. You end up walking away.
That's right.
Because they're doing too much, or they're getting in depth, or somebody's solving a problem for somebody.
Yeah.
But it's hard to hear because that floor was jammed this time, especially.
Right.
You get down there and people are talking, and there's just a pretty high level buzz. So I think that's a really smart move. And so you're going to do that going forward, I would assume.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. The liberating thing was that we could spend more time with the person and talking about what their issues are. And what really surprised us, and we were sort of afraid, wondering that, you know, people are going to look at us funny because we don't have a product to demo or to something to show. But out of the entire show, I think we were asked maybe once or twice to do any sort of a demo. We really just focused on the person and building that relationship. And from our sales after the show and during the show, it definitely proved that it was a better move.
That's great. Yeah, that you know, getting some face-to-face time with people, learning something about what they are, who they are, what their needs are. That's just the smartest way to go. So Congratulations on that. That was a great strategic move that sounds like it's paid off in spades for you. So do either one of you have anything more you want to share with us about productive computing or yourselves that I haven't covered?
I think. Go ahead, Keith.
Well, I was going to say there's only one thing that I think that that I'm really proud of. Well, aside from the fact that Mark and I haven't killed each other in the last 20 years, I think that's a good thing. But at Productive Computing here, we are really focused on, at least I am, and I think Mark is too, but focused on work-life balance. There's some people just essentially can work their life away, but you know, our company culture here is really about an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday work week. Very little overtime, if at all. And I love that. I love to be able to go home to my family. I love that I have time on the weekends to explore other interests and hone other skills. And I think that the company will always have that. There's no sense in having a $100 million company if you're strapped to it and you're the slave to it. I think that work-life balance is something that I really cherish, and
I'm glad to hear that because you know what you're saying, it makes sense. If you spend too much time away from your family, you're going to regret it. And I think I've heard the story somewhere before that, people that are working with older people that are passing away, as they get closer to death, they one thing they almost all agree on when they talk to them, none of them wish they worked more.
Right. Yeah.
They all thought, well, I wish I'd spent more time with my family, and with my friends and enjoying life more.
Right.
As opposed to, chasing after the dollar nonstop and only. So there are a few people that are different than that. There are a few, I'm sure, but they're pretty rare birds. At any rate, guys, I really do appreciate it. That was a great interview. I really learned a lot of stuff I had no idea, and I'm sure the readers are going to love to hear about too. And thanks again. Let me just go over the facts real quick, and then we'll call it quits. I'm Don Clark with FM Database Consulting and FileMakerProGurus.com. And today I've had the honor of interviewing Marc and Keith Larochelle of Productive Computing, and that's at productivecomputing.com. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, John.